In the second half of the 21st century, a manned spaceflight was sent to the planet Venus. This mission included a habitable airship that would float in the clouds of the Venetian atmosphere and provide 5 astronauts with resources to last 10 years. During their stay, the team did meteorological and biological experiments to see if long-term habitation would be possible for a greater number of people. For the first 2 years, the team sent back reports and results of their experiments. Then there was radio silence. Around 10 months later, another ship was sent to investigate, but when they arrived, they could see the airship still floating in the sky. But when they tried to land, nothing. And that crew was never heard from again. In the meantime, on Earth, a brilliant young scientist was working on a way to specifically target individuals for infertility or death. He was gene editing viruses in order to reshape the world all by himself. While this worked at first and no one knew what was happening, a couple years after he started, the mutagen changed. Large swaths of people that shouldn't have been affected started dying. Others simply became infertile. The economies of the world ground to a halt, and war broke out on every single continent. There were a few bunkers of people that survived in spots around the world. Those immune or who gained immunity, along with those that were never exposed. These people started coming out of their communities several years after the wars were over. Among these communities were a group of scientists. They discovered that while the initial threat was gone, the human genome had been permanently changed. The only hope for the future would be a set of 1,000 frozen human embryos that were sent to Venus in the first mission 20 years prior. Among the world of men, there were very few that could pull off such a mission. There was one. A marauder for hire, he was a pilot fearless and capable, and would be the only one left who could do the mission. After some convincing by the scientists on the dire state of the world, he is launched into space in a retrofitted recovery vehicle and sent asleep to Venus. During the flight to Venus, 2 weeks before arrival, the marauder is woken up and begins the tasks for the upcoming landing. He discovers that the extra fuel is gone, and this may be a one-way trip unless there is additional fuel still left on the airship. He lands successfully in the netting capture system on the airship after a bumpy arrival and makes his way upward and aboard the airship. Once aboard, there are no lights, and there is a black fungus growing like a set of veins throughout the interior of the ship. As he makes his way to the command center, he notices red eyes off in the dark glancing at him from time to time. The marauder makes it into the command center of the ship after unbarring the doors of the black growth keeping them closed. He is able to get enough power running to watch crew logs of what happened. It appears that the crew, after arrival, had picked up some type of airborne life, and they had started studying it. This life had started to grow and cut off their communication with Earth. It slowly began to morph the humans into grotesque monsters that would eventually kill them or make them mad. And they would jump to their death to avoid this fate. While the marauder is watching these crew videos, he hears creatures outside the command room, and even though he finds a place to hide, they eventually capture him and knock him out. When he reawakens, he is in front of the queen of these hybrid beings. She has a human face, but her head spasms black sludge in the motion similar to a frog's neck. Before the queen can eat the marauder, he is able to break free and uses a metal bar to defend himself from the hybrid beings. He throws this bar at the queen and punctures her chest, which causes the hybrids to all swarm their queen. The marauder makes an escape from the room and finds the embryos unharmed in another part of the ship. As he is trying to escape the airship, he does not find a way to refuel his own ship, but finds an orbital escape vehicle still functional on board. Before the hybrids can catch him, he blows up the docking clamp so the ship starts a free fall into the Venetian atmosphere. Before the ship is destroyed, he is able to start the rockets and get the vehicle into space. In orbit around Venus, he is able to dock with his transit ship and head back to Earth after putting himself back to sleep. As the ship heads off into the darkness, we see that a tiny little web of the veiny darkness is on the outside of the ship as well.